Welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson, a weekly show helping you grow, prosper, and evolve. Today, episode 364, Walking the Line, Human and Divine. And now, Experience of the Soul.
Hello and welcome to the Experience of the Soul podcast. My name is Cynthia Alice Anderson. I'm the host. I'm here today in my studio with my producer, Mr. Sean Kilgore.
Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 364 of the Experience of the Soul podcast. This is Walking the Line, Human and Divine. Super excited to be here with you. Once again, my name is Sean, your producer. Before we get into the content of today's show, we want to bring you another installment of This Week in Spiritual History. Did you have... Yes, that's my soundtrack. It's live.
I keep thinking we do need to get, it's really providing another layer of richness to the show. I've really enjoyed these, so I'm glad you're bringing this one today.
Thank you. Yeah, I've really been enjoying doing the research and learning. I've learned quite a bit already in just these first couple installments. But all right, so for today, June 9th, 2025, we are looking at different happenings in the spiritual community from all faiths. So we're looking at the Buddha's first sermon begins to travel. This is around 528. So while exact dates are debated, early June is often honored as the time when Buddha's first sermon, which was called the turning of the wheel of Dharma, began to spread beyond his first 5 disciples. And the message, of course, introduced the 4 noble truths, which are what form the foundation of the Buddhist philosophy and the spiritual practice that still is followed by millions and millions of people today. So we want to honor, of course, the teachings of Buddha and that first sermon and that first message that got out there.
Yes. Well, and Sean, if you don't mind me mentioning, the number 4 in our scriptures also means foundation. So what I love about all of this and all of these, different spiritual teachings and philosophies that we are lifting up is we are consistently seeing the sameness with our own. And yes, there are some differences. Of course, we know that. But what we're looking to find in our show, and I know that our listeners are, is how can we come together in our spirituality and in our faith? And that's what I'm really enjoying about it.
Me too. The embodiment of all paths lead to God.
Yes.
That's all the paths are leading to the same place.
All the
just
spokes.
looks a little different. Right?
Yes.
We're also looking at Anne Frank's diary begins on June 12th, 1942. That was her 13th birthday. Anne Frank received that blank diary, which she would later fill with her powerful reflections while hiding from the Nazis. Her writing continues to inspire people around the world to choose compassion over hatred and to hold on to faith in dark times. So that one was pretty poignant, I thought, for us all here.
Absolutely. I thought the same thing. I hope somebody's writing right now about their experiences and help lift us up into the light. Yeah, I thought the same thing.
Amen. We're also looking at the first Quaker meeting happened in America, June 11th, 1656. So this is the Religious Society of Friends, also known as the Quakers, held its first known meeting in the American colonies this week in Rhode Island. Known for their commitment to peace, equality, and direct experience with the divine, Quakers helped shape early ideas of religious freedom in the United States.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of the Quakers. They had another name, though, at one point. I was trying to remember what that was. We visited a college that was started by the Quakers up in Pennsylvania. So, it was a big area for the Quakers. So it's called Swarthmore. Some of the greatest minds in the U.S.
Oh, I did see that. Yes.
Have gone there. Oh, did it mention Swarthmore?
Yeah, in the longer thing that I saw. Yeah.
It's and they still it's a beautiful way the way the campus is run, even though it is not really any longer Quaker. They've held on to many of the traditions. For instance, on campus, once you are a student there, you never pay for a concert, a ball game, even food. Everything is included as a part of the tuition because they don't want students worrying about those kinds of costs. They don't want that to interfere with their educational experience.
Yeah, the fact that they are able to experience those things, like they don't want anyone to not have those experiences, the
Right.
experiences of music or sports or yeah, that's
Right,
incredible.
and they also have a policy, I believe, where in the first term, you can take whatever class you want just to explore, and I think it's not included in your GPA if it's something out of your
Wow.
area that you just want to try because they really wanna encourage, deeper and more expansive learning. It's
Wow.
a
They're onto
completely
something.
oh,
Yeah.
the energy there was phenomenal. Yes, yes. The Quakers have brought so much and certainly influenced unity as well. So,
Awesome. And our
mhm,
final This Week in Spiritual History for this week is the Baha'i Faith gains recognition. This happened June 8th of 1955 when
mhm,
the Israeli government formally recognized the Baha'i Faith as a religious community, which was a
mhm,
major step in preserving its holy sites in Haifa and Akkau.
mhm.
And this affirmed the Baha'i call to unity amongst all people and
Yes,
all religions. So again, you know, uh
here we are.
saying the same thing, right? We are
Yes.
all one,
Well, you know what I was thinking? We ought to put Daniel Nahmod's song "One Power" in the show notes because he has been associated with the Baha'i community, and so have I. I have invited leaders of the Baha'i community where I've served many times, and we found each other to be people of faith and loving humanity and God and each other. And I had wonderful communications with people in the Baha'i faith. So it's very, very beautiful teaching.
very cool. Well, as always, friends, we want to leave you with a question to reflect on as we move forward into the episode. What spiritual truth, whether ancient or recent, are you being called to live and
Mhm.
share with the world this week?
Beautiful.
Yeah, so that
Beautiful.
concludes This Week in Spiritual History. There has to be an song too,
There does. I think
Yeah,
that's for the next show. Well, and I was thinking, I can't believe we're this far along, Sean, in our work together. This means we've been together over a year, and it feels like we just started like a month or so ago.
I know.
Because we're having fun, and I'm thinking too, it's in Orlando, it's hot summer with lots of rain, and so I don't know where you all might be living, but I'd love to hear how your summer is going, and you may be in a part of the world that it's now winter. That was a big learning for me in high school that there were areas of the world that were in winter when I was in summer. That kind of blew my mind.
Yeah.
But yes, here we are today, and we have a great show ready for you. So, Sean, give us the title of
We
today's
do.
show.
Yeah. So, welcome officially, friends. Episode 364 of the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson. This is Walking the Line, Human and Divine.
Thank you so much. And friends, I was pretty excited and really looking forward to today's show because of the topic. And of course, I do create the topics, but I create the topics out of what I'm hearing in one on one sessions. And I find this idea of being human and divine both challenging and wonderful at the same time. And I also see this idea reflected in Jesus's ministry as well. And what I see in the people I work with one on one is that we are trying so hard to live from soul. And so many of our listeners, you all, and myself, we want so deeply to not live an inauthentic life, not live out of our dogma and judging others. But what sometimes we can tend to do is not give ourselves permission to just be human on the journey. Like we try so hard to be in spirit that we almost spiritualize things to a point that it almost becomes spiritual bypass, and that we don't allow ourselves to simply be in the human experience. So I love that you are deeply spiritual. I love how much you want to serve God and how you seek to live a higher way. And you are doing that. You are doing that. But I have also learned, my friends, now please listen to this. I have learned, my dear friends, that if we do not allow the human aspects to come up and out, that we begin to live inauthentically, by accident, because we're thinking if I can just be spiritual enough in this, I'm going to heal it. What I'm seeking to say is that our feelings, our emotions that come up, our feeling and sense of powerless at times, even our fear. I will also use the word grief when that comes up. Part of what happens for us is that there are no good models that I know of. Like, I can't point to somebody right now and say they show us how to grieve, or they show us how to be healthy. And so we're trying to find a model for healing. And so we say, well, let's just go to the spiritual and let's affirm it away or pray it away. Now, prayer is good, affirmations are good, but if we don't first feel the feelings, and I talk about this a lot in my weekly emails, in my, those of you who subscribe to my email list, I talk about this a lot because our feelings are windows into the soul. How we're feeling, what we're going through on the human level, help us know what do we need to work on spiritually. But if we don't let the feelings come up, as my friend says, feel the feels. If we don't feel the feelings, feel the feels, then we're not able to then appropriately work with them on the spiritual level. So what I'm trying to say here is, friends, give yourself a break and allow yourself to be human. Because in our humanness, that it makes room for the divine to come and heal. But when we pretend that we're not human and try to spiritualize it away, we are missing the deeper spiritual gift, which is it's kind of a paradox, isn't it? But even Jesus in the Bible, we're told, had human emotions. How do we know? At the death of his friend Lazarus, we're told Jesus wept. It's the shortest verse in the whole Bible. 2 words. Jesus wept. That's to show us, this deep sense of grief that he had for his friend. It's the only passage like it about Jesus in the Bible. The only thing similar is when Jesus was on the cross and what he expressed there. So, friends, if even Jesus wept, I think we might be able to allow ourselves to feel that, to move through the grief, to feel the grief and let those tears be. And I wanted to speak about this openly and honestly because I have had a couple of things come up recently that I've really had to feel, that I've had to let be there. And I'm so positive and I love the spiritual journey so much. And there are projections of me and how my life should look and, all these kind of things. And so I have to feel the feelings as well. And sometimes things will happen that will activate a feeling we don't really know, or we don't really fully know is there. And I don't know, it's been a month or so ago in an email, I talked about Ecclesiastes 3, the scripture, and I talked about that there was a time for everything, that there was a change happening in my life, that my son was graduating and getting ready to go to college. And I can't tell you how thrilled I am for that guy. I'm thrilled for my son's journey. I'm thrilled for where he's going to college. I'm thrilled for his high school experience. He's had an amazing experience. I bought this home that we live in exactly for him to go to that school. And so, so many of my choices as a parent have been for his experience to be the best possible experience, from preschool on through and even now to college. So when this change started happening, it's like I'm in a different life stage, and each life stage carries with it a different role for me to play. This is true for all of us. I was just talking to a dear friend who is in a life stage. He is coming to the end of his life and is in his mid 80s. And so his life stage is very different from the one I'm in. But what I've noticed about his shift, it's the same thing I've noticed about mine. And it's even the same I've noticed about somebody just ready to have children. And that is, to move into the new life stage, something has to be released from the current stage or from the old stage. So the truth is, the change is already here, and my emotions are just now processing what some of that change might mean. So I want you to give thought to, how is this happening in your own experience? For some of us, as our parents age, we're seeking to help and be supportive, and we start to make different choices because we're moving into a different life stage. We're moving from child of the parent to the caretaker. It's almost like switching places with our parents, and the way we think about things with them is different. That's also a different life stage. So I'm saying all this to say that as we seek to be good people, as we seek to live from God, as we seek to live from love, there are also very difficult emotions that we have to deal with at times. Sometimes those emotions are deep grief, as I mentioned. Sometimes they're fear that can leave us feeling ill, almost ill. Sometimes it's fear that leaves us where we're not sure what to do next. Sometimes it leaves us feeling powerless. The point is, we don't want to make ourselves wrong for having those feelings. And this is what I see a lot, that as people are seeking to move forward on their journey, and maybe there's a big life stage change. Again, that just happens to be what's up with so many of my clients right now. So I really noticed that as this life change, this life stage is asking for a new way of being, that we're all in this place of saying, now, wait a minute, how do I go through this? And the grief that has come up for me has been a significant. And of course, I haven't shared this with my son because I want him to be happy and peace and free, moving forward. But I realized I'm grieving the loss of a child, but at the same time, I am rejoicing, super happy in his adulthood, in his manhood. And so it's a really interesting place to be. So rather than judge the way I feel, which is what most of us tend to do, is say, well, I knew this was coming. I prepared for this his whole life. And even though that is true, there's still feelings that need to be felt, processed, moved through, and then released. But if I don't first feel the feelings and I pretend everything's okay, in other words, I go into being inauthentic, then I will start pulling on his energy. I will start manipulating to get more time. I mean, and I see people do this all the time. This is not particular to one person or another. What I'm saying is, when we don't truly feel the feelings and we don't bring them into our conscious awareness, what can happen is subconsciously they're running our show. And we don't want that, because that creates unhealthy behaviors like manipulation, saying things we don't mean, anger bursts, and things like that. So as we can feel those feelings and allow them to come to consciousness, we don't want to feel bad about it. We don't want to feel shame about it. We don't want to be afraid of it. We just know, I must be moving in life. I must be moving into a different life stage or into a significant change. And this feeling is coming up to be felt, processed, and then released. And I think as spiritual students, what we try to do is we go right to release instead of feeling it. And I wanted to share, I started to say this a minute ago and I got a little sidetracked, but I wanted to make sure and share my own process, which was very recently. I've talked about the puppy a lot on the show, and puppies love to jump around. And Sean, I can't remember how old your dogs are, but when they're puppies, they're everywhere, right? They're jumping here and they're jumping there. And
oh
yeah. And he's not small. I took him to the vet and he's already 39 pounds.
Oh, wow.
He's going to be at least an 80-pound plus, dog.
That's going to be a great companion, though.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
you.
yeah. I love him.
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah.
So, what had happened the other day was that I was just sitting there. It'd been a long day. It was a Sunday. And usually on Sunday afternoon, it is the one day that I just put my feet up and I just rest or watch TV or talk to a family or friend. But there's nothing scheduled. There's nothing going on. So I was about to get up and have dinner, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, my puppy jumped on top of me and hit my arm and everything, and it actually hurt. And I was shocked. I mean, it scared me half to death. But then I started crying, and I cried and cried and cried.
Aw.
And the puppy was like, "Are you okay, Mom?" I mean, he came over and started licking me like, "I'm
I was
really
like, I didn't mean
sorry.
it. I
I'm
didn't
really
mean it.
sorry." And I was like, "I think I'm just sad." I'm telling the
Aw.
dog. And so what I'm saying to that, the reason I'm sharing that is, of course, it wasn't just about the puppy doing that. That kind of activated it. And then I realized, you know what? I was feeling this sense of grief. Again, it's not bad or good. I was just feeling the sense of grief, this sadness that needed to be processed. So, that's how it happened. So, what activated for me is a physical pain, and it really wasn't that big of a deal. But because it scared me, it's like it threw me into my feelings in a different way. And I was missing my mom. And oh, yes, it was on Mother's Day. I forgot to mention that.
Lots of emotions.
Lots of emotions on Mother's Day. My mother and I were so close. And so, it was all that. It was all that. And I finally I thought, when the tears started coming, I thought, I'm just going for it. I'm not going to try to quit crying. And I cried until I couldn't cry anymore. And then I got up and was great. I was ready. All was well.
Yeah, it's a release. It's
It was a
cathartic,
release.
right? Yeah.
Very cathartic. Exactly. And so I was just thinking that if I would have sat there and said, "Oh, I shouldn't feel these feelings," or, "Oh, yes, I know you miss your mom, but she's in a better place." All those trite things people say. And what was good is that I was able to feel the feels, cry it out, and then be fine. Well, then, it helped me also be in a different place with my sons, graduation and all of that, because I am thrilled. Like I say, I am thrilled for him, but I am grieving the loss of his childhood. It's a loss to me, not to him, but he's no longer a boy, and he hasn't been for over a year. He's really moved into adulthood so easily and well. But I think there'll probably be another time I need to process this. I'm sure when he leaves home for college, that's going to be another one. That said, I'm super excited about that for him. I remember that time in my life so well, and what a wonderful time it was for me. And he's excited and moving towards what he loves. So, my friends, I'm bringing all of this to say, please don't metaphysically malpractice on yourself and try to talk yourself out of normal feelings. Just allow yourself to be human. Allow yourself to be human and feel the feels. Feel the feels. I want to mention again, feelings are windows into the soul. Feelings are windows into the soul. And as we process grief or loss or sadness, what is on the other side of that is hope and joy and authentic love and, the ability to move forward. But until the grief, until the sadness, until that loss is processed, we keep going back to it and back to it and back to it, and not realizing it's actually holding us back as we don't process that feeling. Allow yourself to be human, feel the feels, and remember, feelings are windows into the soul. So I want to talk a little bit about that too, about feelings are windows into the soul. So feelings show us places where we need healing. They also show us places of strength. They also show us places where we are vulnerable. And I'll say that again. Feelings show us places where we are vulnerable. And what's so beautiful is, as we start to develop our spiritual consciousness as well as our emotional intelligence, we actually seek opportunities to be vulnerable because we know it is a place of inner strength. What's interesting to me is that when we're not aware of emotional intelligence, when we're not aware of the soul, we think vulnerability is a weakness. It's another lie of the ego. So what I'm talking to you about is the ability to feel the feels, the ability to acknowledge those feelings and to have them and to process through them is a place of tremendous strength. So vulnerability is key to realizing both our humanity and also moving us into the divine. But our feelings do show us where we are vulnerable. And sometimes we think of vulnerability as negative, but I'm sensing and seeking to get across the idea that our vulnerability is quite powerful, especially when we can hold our vulnerability and our power at the same time. So, what most of us learn to do is to protect from having a feeling that might be difficult or to being vulnerable. And that protection eventually becomes a wall and it keeps people out. But what we start to know as we begin to name our feelings, as we begin to feel our feelings, as we, begin to integrate our emotional intelligence and our spirituality, we discover vulnerability is a place of strength. That vulnerability, being able to be vulnerable, not being scared of those feelings, is a tremendous place of power because we know we can hold both our vulnerability and our strength and power at the same time. So it is a bit like walking a line between the human and the divine. It is. It's a bit like that, walking the line between human and divine. So my hope for you is that as feelings come up, that you won't shame yourself, and instead you will be able to name the feelings, to feel the feelings, and then let them, come up and out. And as you do that, you can move more into your joy, more into your grace, and then, in fact, more into your divine self. What I do want to caution, though, is what I see a lot of right now in our current culture is so much attention given to our feelings that we are overly identifying with feelings and not with the process after the feelings and not with the spiritual nature after the feeling. So I'm calling the feeling spiritual. I'm also calling the feeling a window because it will show us again where we need to heal. It'll also show us our place of strength, but it isn't the place of strength itself. Does that make sense? That your feelings are indicators of something. It could be a loss. It could be a gain and a strength. It could be what a lot of us would term a win. If you feel joyful, it's not because necessarily you have something, it's because of who you are. But if you feel happy, probably something good has happened, right? Probably something good happened. So if you're feeling good around this person or you're feeling good in this situation, then maybe I'd like to do more of that. That's a window into your soul. If, on the other hand, every time you're in this situation or every time you're around this person, you feel this negative energy drawing on you, okay, that's another indicator. But we don't want to have the feeling and then stay there and over-process it with everybody we talk to and put it online, right? So that kind of cheapens the spiritual process by putting it out to everybody because it's a private process between maybe you and a trusted friend or you and a trusted counselor or minister or therapist. But when you start sharing that with everyone, it gives so much power to the feeling that you're not getting to what the feeling was trying to show you. So I've seen this a lot recently, and I want to encourage you to honor the feelings as spiritual, to honor the feelings as windows into the soul, but also honor that next piece, that divine piece that helps give you context for what your work is to do around those feelings and moving you into joy, into happiness even, and healing. So my hope for you is that you will not metaphysically malpractice. In other words, you won't shame yourself or try to act spiritual when you have a feeling. I also hope you don't give so much attention to the feeling that you stop at the feeling, but that you allow your feelings to be windows into the soul, that you allow your feelings to come up and out and be released and processed, and that you can hold both your vulnerability and your spirituality at one time. That you can walk that line of being both human and divine, loving it all, being at peace with it all, and knowing God is in the midst of it all. So, my friends, I hope this supports your journey, and it is helping me to share mine as I move through another life stage as well. And I honor you wherever you may be on the journey. I know all of us are at different life stages, and all of us are seeking to grow, prosper, and evolve. And that's what we're here to do on the show. So please give us feedback. Let us know. Feel free to share via email or text. Sean always helps us remember that, send a text feature on the podcast. We love to hear from you. It always lifts us up, and we're very, very grateful for your financial support and that you trust us with your journey. So thank you for listening, my friends, and blessings on the journey.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Experience of the Soul podcast with Cynthia Alice Anderson, helping you grow, prosper, and evolve. This podcast is made possible because of listeners and viewers just like you. If you would like to support the podcast with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head on over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Experience of the Soul podcast is copyright 2025 Cynthia Alice Anderson, all rights reserved, and is produced by Sean Kilgore. A production of the Soulworks Group, Incorporated.